Guys, today about the box office again. And yep, the box office has been updated. Of course, there was a weekend that passed, and the number one movie was surprisingly Free Guy. Surprisingly, despite a certain YouTuber being in the movie, I thought people would say, yeah, let's boycott the movie. But apparently, no. People still went to go see Free Guy, which is not surprising because it is a Wild Reynolds movie. But considering that sees in the movie the YouTube channel that if you criticize this channel you'll be banned off of YouTube. Surprisingly, this movie is not gonna be a flop. So we have here Free Guy, which we can look up the budget for this movie too. You have the is at 51 million currently. Oh yeah, the budget is going at 100 million to 125 million. So yeah, this movie's still gonna probably be a watch for Disney still, despite all the praise this movie has been handed. Again, this movie might catch up in the international box office, but again, this is a movie that needs the international box office to do well. With again, the international box office is still in a slump, which is why you have a watch of major movies underperforming because the international box office has been in a slump because they still have pretty harsh restrictions in many major countries such as Europe. Most of the money comes from Europe, from the box office, and of course East Asia, which again has been going away from Hollywood anyways, in Australia and New Zealand, and of course Brazil and Mexico are other major markets as well. So Europe is facing a new group of lockdowns, which is why this movie is not gonna make money, even though everybody has been praising this movie to the end of day, and to the end of time. Next is Don't Breathe 2, again. It is another unnecessary and useless and pointless sequel. Did we really need a sequel to Don't Breathe? I know it made money, but even then, the budget is only $10 million. Only $15 million for Don't Breathe. So Don't Breathe will likely make back its money. At the end, it needs to make $30 million. Gonna likely make $30 million. It seems that horror movies are good, which will probably get a Don't Breathe free, even though no one wants it. That's how horror movies are nowadays. They get sequels. Next is Jungle Cruise. This movie has now made 156 million. Still far from the 400 million needed to make worldwide. This movie is still at a $250 million loss, which is just absolutely hilarious. Of course, if that includes Disney Plus, it's probably around 190 to $180 million plus. So it's around $180 million loss currently right now. Because of course it's Disney Plus as well, that is a factor. Surprise Free Guy was not put on Disney Plus as well. Or Hulu. But yep, next is Respect again. I think nobody really is gonna watch this. This is an Oscar movie. And no one's gonna watch this internationally, so yeah, Respect is gonna probably be a flop. Next is the Suicide Squad. It seems that people hated this movie. This movie was not really well received. It's having poor ratings. But I don't really think the Suicide Squad is the end of comic book movies. We really have to see how Venom 2 at the Recarnage does, and how Spider-Man No Way Home does. And of course, I keep forgetting saying Seeing the Eternals exists. I think everybody else does, but those are the two huge ones that everybody cares about. I have made a poll of which movies are you most excited for, and Venom 2 and Spider-Man No Way Home trounced Shang-Chi, trounced the Eternals, and trounced Black Widow. So we're going to see how those two do, to really see the fate of the comic book movies. The fate of comic book movies. But again, it's a sequel to a movie that nobody liked, a sequel to a absolutely hated and movie that's probably become a cult classic in the future, considering how many people hate the first movie, considering how many people didn't really want to see this movie to begin with, considering the whole controversies with James Gunn, which also factored into this, which I keep forgetting to mention, Delta variant. It's just all this is a perfect storm with a massive box office failure. Because they only remember the whole controversy with James Gunn last year of Twitter's not gonna go see this movie. Liberals are not going to see this movie. Conservatives do not like Hollywood. So basically most political people don't want to see this movie. Like heavily political people, they're not going to see this movie because conservative Hollywood liberals are angry at James Gunn for over his tweets, so both of them don't want to see. So really, mostly independent people are going to see Suicide Squad, which is not surprising at all, because and also we live in a very polarized climate as well. Let's look at film review. Let's look at the state of film review in general. Okay, you have the fandom menace intentionally trying to tank this movie for absolutely no reason. Same thing with Black Widow. It seems that unlike Black Widow, with the Suicide Squad, it's actually working with the fandom menace, who are a bunch of right wing, people who want movies back to the way it was, who basically are a bunch of nostalgia tards who want the way back to the 80s and 90s, which I find it sad. They have so much nostalgia for the 80s and 90s that they expect everything to be like the 80s and 90s. So, it's like they can't, it's like they praise Alien for a female character, but then they'll trounce and try to, make Black Widow be one of the, they'll try to make Black Widow the biggest flop of the year. Even though they said they don't hate women, but they try to make Black Widow a flop, calling the movie a feminist pile of garbage and calling the movie garbage, basically. Suicide Squad, nobody is going to watch it. Old, again, $75 million. Zemran has made another successful movie. It's a much smaller movie in terms of a budget, and it's a much smaller movie in terms of box office. So 75 million, I think, is pretty good for Old. Pretty good. I'm still gonna probably see the Suicide Squad. Next is Black Widow. Black Widow has made $368 million. It will make the $369 million. But of course, including the Z Plus million, it has made money. So the fandom ass will basically, say it flopped. Probably go on Wikipedia and say it's one of the biggest box office failures of all time. But of course, including the Z Plus money, which this movie needs to make like $400 million to make back its money, for $350 to $400 million. With reigns to make back its money. With Disney Plus, it has, obviously. And this movie is a whole controversy in itself because of the whole streaming release date, which definitely took away audiences from the theatrical release. We all know it's Disney Plus is why this movie is one of the worst grossing Marvel movies of all time. Not because of feminism, get woke, go broke, and stuff like that. And also, theaters are not back to the full capacity. They'll still half the audience don't want to go, still are hesitant to go see movies in the theaters. And of course, Black Widow, Disney Plus as well. Delta variant started rising up as well. Fears of the Delta variant over this movie's lifetime was led to this box office performance like this. It's opting people to go do the Disney Plus option. Whereas I bet Black Widow made $250 million on Disney Plus at the end because of Delta variant fears. Next is Stillwater, box office failure. Not surprised. $10 million. I think this movie has like a $10 million budget as well. So yeah, Stillwater, big flop. Green Knight, another movie that's not gonna make money. Is not gonna. I thought it would make money in Europe, but nope. It's only making money in USA. Doing very well in USA, but you need the international box office to make money in this world. But I wouldn't be surprised if this movie makes money through streaming and other sources, kind of like Stillwater on TV and stuff. Space Jam: A New Legacy, one of the biggest failures of the year. If they picked anyone else besides LeBron James, this movie would have been a success, considering that most people loved the first Space Jam movie. Most people have nostalgia for the first movie, especially. And you really see the box opening weekend, that's mostly the people who have nostalgia for the first movie. Taking the kids to see the second movie. Taking the kids to see, hey, I remember watching this movie when I was a kid, either on VHS, DVD, or feeders, when I was in feeders. I'm going to make my kids see that movie in the feeders. But that audience quickly dried up, and the only people who watched the Looney Tunes, and of course there's massive Looney Tunes fans as well that went to see this movie, but that audience quickly dried up because people don't like LeBron James. It is a simple matter of fact. This movie did worse than the first Space Jam, which is ironically enough. This movie did far worse than the first Space Jam, which was released in the 90s when there were less people worldwide. So, yep. Next is Escape Room. We're doing all the movies here. $40 million. It has made money, basically. which is not too surprising. Next is Snake Eyes. Again, this movie is a flop. You know, if it released in China, it would be a whole different story. But that international box office is abysmal. 3 million, a total of 3 million. 3 million. You would think that international audiences would care, but nope, only 3 million. And of course, not many. The hardcore G.I. Joe fans told people not to see it, and it's not just the fan base, mostly the hardcore, G.I. Joe fans who love these movies, who love the books and comics and cartoons. Yeah, they said this is not like the original G.I. Joe movies, and most of the fans of G.I. Joe refuse to see this, refuse to watch this, which I'm not too surprised at all. It is considered better than the first two G.I. Joe movies by far, but the first G.I. Joe movie was also a box office failure, so not too surprised as well. Unlike Transformers, Paramount has struggled to get G.I. Joe in general into the theater-going audience. So, yep. F9, 681 million. Again, this released before the Delta variant fears were around. So, yep. And a lot of these movies, also Delta variant is a factor as well into most of these movies as well. Boss Baby, Family Business is not. This weekend is going to finally start releasing in Russia and Europe and stuff. So we're going to see how well it does in Europe. Considering that it's coming out in October into September, when after hopefully the Delta variant fears are over. And yeah, Boss Baby, Family Business, and Forever Birds and stuff, no one cares. And there's a lot of other movies further down the list. But yeah, Boss Baby 2 is performing relatively well in like 6 to 7 international markets, but it was considered a flop by the by one of the fan members, as well. And the movie did play relatively well for a sequel that no one asked for as well. So yep, there we go about this video. Goodbye.